Hi, this is Dr. Lennon. I'm going to be doing the example on page 267 and 268 on using XLMiner for association rules output. This relates to 6.3, the unsupervised learning section. So what it's going to develop is a bunch of rules that shows whether or not several of the variables we're looking at are related to each other. Amongst these things that it's going to show us is the confidence, which is just the support of basically the antecedent and consequent over the support of the antecedent. And what that means is it's basically the conditional probability that a second thing is going to happen given that something first happened. So in the example we have today, an example of that, you might have a confidence that someone buys milk given that they've already bought in peanut butter and bread. So the antecedent would be the peanut butter and bread, and you can say with some certain level of confidence what that's going to be. There's also another thing called the lift ratio, which takes that thing we just talked about, the confidence, and then divides by the support of the consequent or total number of transactions. And what that tells you is basically a high lift ratio is going to tell you that a rule is efficient at finding when the consequent occurs if it has a low support, but it may not be as useful as another rule that has a lower lift ratio but appears in a greater number of transactions. So in in a previous example, that they had an example where, like I talked about before, if the antecedent were buying bread and jelly, then buying peanut butter, in the example on page 266, that had a confidence of 0.5, but the lift ratio was 1.25, which meant that identifying a customer who purchased both bread and jelly as one who purchased peanut butter is 25% better than just guessing some random person bought peanut butter. So, you may want to review these things in section 6.3, but we'll be using XLMiner to develop a few of these rules in the high v small example. So I'm going to open this with Excel, and it'll take just a second to open up, but we'll take a look at how to get some of these association rules. Okay. All right, let me try to open from here because I didn't like what I just did. So let's go to Dropbox Math, and let's find, no, I'll go up one. All right, we're in chapter 6 web files, and we wanted the high v small example. Don't need to worry about that. Okay, so here we go. We want to enable editing. Of course, this is a perfectly safe file. Just trying to get some of the stuff out of the way. All right, so now we're just going to click a cell in the spreadsheet. Okay, so Excel finally started behaving, and I have all the tools available. So you just first need to click any cell in the range of data, and then we'll go to the XLMiner platform, and we're just going to go to Associate, and we want to click Association Rules. And then, as usual in the XLMiner, it'll populate the worksheet, workbook, and data range for us. We just need to double check, make sure everything's okay. So this is the right worksheet, this is the right workbook, and then A1 through N11 is what we want, which is great right there. So then we just want to look in the data source area and make sure this is checked. If this is not checked, it'll get confused because this is not data, these are just headers. So again, we want to make sure we're in data and binary matrix format because these are all just zeros and ones. And then in the parameters area, we want to enter 4 in the box next to minimum support and 50 next to the minimum confidence. So again, it says right here what this is doing. It specifies the lower bound for support, the number of transactions that contain the combination of items. So we're not going to really care about that as a support item unless there's at least that many appearing. And a lot of times you'll have some idea based on what you're dealing with when it's an important transaction, how many are going to occur, or else it's going to be specified to you in the problem. But now we just click OK, and it will create the association rules for us down here. So we have the confidence, the antecedent, the consequent, and then the support. Notice all the supports are greater than 4 as we specified, and then support for the antecedent and the consequent. And a lot of times what you want to do is you just want to go ahead and evaluate the association rules explaining them. There's no real explicit measures. It's kind of what seems like a important thing to you in terms of what we're looking at in terms of the data, right? Like a lot of times we'll see milk and peanut butter and milk both being important in both ways. So you would say that there's a two-way relationship going on there. But sometimes you might have a very high confidence interval and a high number of transactions, but we have to be aware that the association rule mining often results in really obvious relationships, such as if a customer purchases a hamburger, then a customer also purchases hamburger buns. Like, that's not necessarily that one is influencing the other versus they just happen to go together. You can't really do without the other. So sometimes you have to take the association rules with a grain of salt, even though you might have a really high confidence and a really high support for both. But you just have to kind of go through now that you have these rules and see which ones look like the most interesting to you and explain why. But basically this is the breakdown for all the rules, and I hope that helps you with the second quiz question in Module 6. Thanks.